I'm Mike Bradner, and this is Capitol Views, and with us is Commissioner Larry Hartig, who is going to talk to us about debris in the Gulf of Alaska that is or is not radioactive. Larry, what do you have? What's the good news, bad news?
Well, the good news, Mike, is that we're not seeing levels of radiation that are of any human health concern, whether it's in the air, the water, the marine debris itself, or the fish in Alaska. And so the message that we're putting out there is that we'll continue to monitor the work of other federal agencies, universities, others that are active in the monitoring of these parts of the environment, and pass that information on to the public.
What actually do you have to monitor? What kind of things that do you look for?
Well, I would answer that by saying that the monitoring that's being done is not showing a level of concern. So it isn't like there's continuing monitoring because we're expecting to see a problem. I think we're past that. But it's monitoring to respond to public concerns that may still be out there.
But you have to monitor sea debris and fish and different things, bird patterns?
Well, we start with the air. The earthquake happened March 11, 2011, and the concern was that there could be air emissions from the nuclear plant that was damaged there at Fukushima, and that either the air contaminants or the moisture of the air, the rain, could come over and impact Alaska. And so that was the initial concern, and DEC, my department, worked closely with Environmental Protection Agency. Environmental Protection Agency has what they call the RADNet program, where they have a system of air monitors around the country. They maintain 3 in Alaska, 1 here in Juneau, 1 in Anchorage, and 1 in Fairbanks. And those are going all the time, monitoring radiation from wherever in the world that may be coming through Alaska. So what they agreed to do is bring up 2 temporary monitors, put one out on Alaska, and I believe the other one was Nome, just so we could be sure and intercept any air that might be coming over from Japan or any rain that would be deposited that came from Japan. And we saw a slight elevation for a short period of time, and then it's dropped off, and we haven't seen anything above what become normal patterns. And EPA has redeployed those 2 other monitors, the 3 which are part of the standard program.
Are there traditional patterns of current that come from that area up here, or where else is of concern?
Well, on the water side of things, I think that's what you're getting to. Is yeah, there was monitoring that was done off the coast of Japan initially that saw, again, some elevated levels. You didn't have to get that too far off the coast of Japan, where you were already past levels that would be of human health concern. And then there was the currents go from west to east, and they go right over to the continental U.S., over by California and Oregon and Washington, and so they would see that water coming from Japan. And NOAA and EPA were doing monitoring over there too, in addition to there was other independent monitoring like Woods Hole and others. And then the states in those areas, because they have nuclear industry in their state agencies, my counterparts, have nuclear programs. So the state agencies were doing monitoring. They were set up with nuclear labs and expertise to do monitoring themselves. All of that monitoring along the west coast where the currents went was showing, again, no levels of any kind of human health concern. Now that water that would come eventually to Alaska would come up the coast past British Columbia. The Canadian federal government, along with the province of British Columbia, did their own monitoring with the similar results, no human health concerns. So all this monitoring occurred before that water came up into the Alaska southeast of the Gulf.
So the water is going to the northern United States, swinging up the coast and around the coast of the Gulf of Alaska, and then I assume back.
Yeah, it comes back down, along the coastline.
What about in the Bering Sea? I mean, what kind of currents enter the Bering Sea?
Well, you wouldn't expect to see the currents carrying the marine water from Japan that direction, so that wasn't an area of concern. And again, we didn't see the levels where they did look.
about the air patterns?
The air patterns, we believe that the areas that needed to be checked were checked. I mean, that was one reason that we got EPA to come up and put the monitors, and worked with them to get one out in Dutch Harbor and Nome. There's some debate if you had radiation like coming from Russia, that it could come on a more northerly route, and that if you had something in Nome or on Alaska that you wouldn't catch it, but this was coming up more from the southwest.
But your currents, I know we did have some fallout during the Chinese era of testing and the Russian era of testing.
Right, and that's why I
That was
mentioned
a
on the
long
Russia,
time
you'd
ago,
have to
yeah.
go further north, and then there's some evidence that you can have, and I'm not an expert on this, so I'm stretching myself here, but I do know that when we look at other types of deposition of contaminants, like mercury from China is one that we're concerned for the power plants in China, that we look at that west to east, not just that would come from the north rather than more from the southwest. And that there's monitoring that's also done, for instance, in Barrow, but we didn't see a need for Barrow monitoring in the case of the Fukushima radiation.
Larry, we're out of time, and this has been Capitol Views. I'm Mike Bradner, and we've been with Larry Hartig, the Commissioner of our Department of Environmental Conservation. Thank you.
Thanks.